Radha Madhava Vihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihare Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradare Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradare Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Iravanachare Yamuna Tira Vanachare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihare Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhare Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhare Sudanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachare Yamuna Tiravanachare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Radha Damodara Shri Radhe Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat Nashtaprayeshwa Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Welcome to this morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. We are at the end of the appearance of the demon Vritrasura. So I'll read, I think it was from, yeah, we'll read from 53 to the end. Okay. Vadyanatarvanastvachte varma vedhyam madatmakam vishwarupaya yat pradat tvashtaya tvam adastataha. Vadyancha's invincible protective covering, known as the Narayana Kavacha, was given to Twashta, who delivered it to his son Vishwarupa, from whom you have received it. Because of this Narayan Kavacha, the deity's body is now very strong. You should therefore beg him for this body, for his body. Yushmabhyam yachito swibhyam dharmagyo nganitasyati tatastair ayudha shrishto Vishwakarma vinirmitaha yena vitra shiro harta mateja upabringhitaha. When the Ashwini Kumaras beg for Dadyancha's body on your behalf, he will surely give it because of affection. Do not doubt this, for Dadyancha is very experienced in religious understanding. When Dadyancha awards you his body, Vishwakarma will prepare a thunderbolt from his bones. This thunderbolt will certainly kill Vritrasura, because it will be invested with my power. So we'll read this verse. This one has a purport, which is the last verse of the chapter. Tasmin vini te yuyam tejo strayudha sampadaha bhuya praps yata padramvo nahing santi chamat paran tasmin vinihate yuyam tejo strayudha sampadaha bhuya prapsyata badrambo na hingsanti chamat paran. Would like to read? Tasmin vinihate yuyam tejostra yudha sampadaha bhuya prapsyata padrambo nahing santi chamat paran. Would anyone online like to try?
Tasmin vinihate yuyam tejo strayudha sampadaha bhuya prapsyata padram vo nahim santi chamat paran.
Thank you, Prabhu. Anyone else? It's the last verse of the chapter. You will get Shukadev Goswami's benediction. Okay. Nobody's greedy for the mercy. Only Thakur Prabhu as usual. Tasmin, when he, Vritrasura, Vinihate, was killed. Yam, all of you. Tejaha, power. Astra, arrows. Ayudha, other weapons. Sampadaha, an opulence. Bhuyaha, again. Prapseta, will obtain. Padram, all good fortune. Vaha, unto you. Na not hingsati hurt. Cha also. Matparan, my devotees. Translation. So this is Lord Vishnu speaking to the demigod. When Vritrasura is killed because of my spiritual strength, you will regain your strength, weapons, and wealth. Thus, there will be all good fortune for all of you. Although Vritrasura can destroy all the three worlds, do not fear that he will harm you. He is also a devotee and will never be envious of you. Please repeat. When Vritrasura is killed because of my spiritual strength, you will regain your strength, weapons, and wealth. Thus, there will be all good fortune for all of you. Although Vritrasura can destroy all the three worlds, do not fear that he will harm you. He is also a devotee and will never be envious of you. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. A devotee of the Lord is never envious of anyone, what to speak of other devotees. As revealed later, Vritrasura was also a devotee. Therefore, he was not expected to be envious of the demigods. Indeed, of his own accord, he would try to benefit the demigods. A devotee does not hesitate to give up his own body for a better cause. Chanakya Pandit said, Sannimite varang tyago vinashe. Vinashe niyate sati. After all one's material possessions, including his body, will be destroyed in due course of time. Therefore, if the body and other possessions can be utilized for a better cause, the devotee never hesitates to give up even his own body. Because Lord Vishnu wanted to save the demigods, Vritrasura, even though able to swallow the three worlds, would agree to be killed by the demigods. For a devotee, there is no difference between living and dying, because in this life, a devotee engages in devotional service, and after giving up his body, he engages in the same service in the spiritual world. His devotional service is never hindered. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 9th chapter, 6th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Appearance of the Demon Vritrasura. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shlakaya Chakshu Unmilitangena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shrinavari Paschatya Deshatani. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Tasmin vinihate yuyam tejo strayuda sambadaha. Bhuya prapsyata badrambo nahingsati chamatvaran. When Vritrasura is killed because of my spiritual strength, you will regain your strength, weapons, and wealth. Thus, there will be all good fortune for all of you. Although Vritrasura can destroy all the three worlds, do not fear that he will harm you. He is also a devotee and will never be envious of you. So here, Lord Vishnu, appearing before the demigods, benedicting them with his darshan, is declaring that the conclusion of this battle between yourselves and this great demon Vritrasura is that my mantra, the Narayan Kavacha, in the set of the Narayan Kavacha shield, will be is actually a battle between another mantra that I actually gave to Vritrasura. So the secret of Vritrasura's power is that he obtained it from a previous lifetime. So you'll find out in later chapters that Vritrasura, he was he had 10 million wives, and he got the darshan of Narada Muni and Agastya Muni. And after that, he wanted a son, but then he couldn't have a son. So they gave him a son, but that son was to be both a cause of great jubilation and a cause of great lamentation. So in that lamentation, Narada Muni instructed him and gave him a mantra, uh, which he became a great devotee of Sankarshan. So the object or the objective of that mantra was actually to be absorbed in meditation on Sankarshan. So as we know, Sankarshan is a plenary portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ultimately, he is a expansion of an expansion of Lord Balaram, who is the Adi Guru, the Samvid potency of the Lord. And he became, in 7 days, he actually got the darshan um, of Sankarshan. And so basically, he had become a Jivan Mukta. He was powerful and he was traveling around in the universe. And then he got cursed by Mother Parvati because it appeared that he had actually insulted her great husband, Lord Shiva. But he accepted that curse. And so, in accepting that curse, he actually became a demon in this life. But we can see that the power that he had, he carried it into this life. So as we know, in the science of the transmigration of the soul, the subtle body is the carrier of the soul. And so even though the outer body, with its the knowledge acquiring senses, the executive senses, um, that space, those are instruments uh, through which the subtle body, the actual force upstream of that, what's actually causing these instruments to act, is a subtle body, which is composed of mind, intelligence, and the ego. And so power, Tejas, Brahminical Tejas, Brahma Tejas gets invested in this subtle body. So it gets carried over. So that's why Lord Vishnu here, or Lord Narayan, is saying that even with the Narayan Kavacha shield, we see a similar thing happened in that the bones of Dadyanchi, of Dadichi, with Dadyancha, uh, they get invested with this Brahminical Tejas. And so from those bones, then it can then Vishwakarma, he's going to fashion a weapon and it's going to have the potency of to actually destroy Vritrasura. So it's a battle of mantras. But ultimately, um, so then which mantra will win? The Ryan Kavacha mantras or the mantras that Narada Muni gave for realizing Sankarshan? And the secret of the of which will win is because of Vritrasura's non-envious attitude, Anusuyave. So Vritrasura, um, who was Chitraketu in his previous life, this attitude, because he's a devotee, it's even though he has the body, the knowledge acquiring senses, the executive senses of a demon, he acts like demon, looks like one, um, but his attitude and the affection that he has for the Lord, it still shines through. Yes, because his subtle body is completely, he's attained to Jivan Mukta status. And so um, he knows who he is. He knows that he's an eternal servant of Krishna. Jivar Swarupur, Nityadas. Krishna Nityadas. He knows that. And so his devotional attitude shines through. And so ultimately, even though it's a battle of two mantras that are originating from the same source, um, Lord Narayan, but the ultimate victor, the cause of victory, is the attitude of Vritrasura. that actually he is non-envious. And so this is why he's telling them, telling the demigods, that he actually won't harm you. So even though you have come to me praying all these wonderful prayers out of fear, and yes, externally it's a cause of fear because he was named Vritra, because he was actually covering uh, the sky, he was covering what we could see on this plane, and he was covering also below, one who covers all. This was his name, Vritrasura. He had this great power, Mahima Siddhi. He was able to expand himself. So it was a cause of fear. And it looked like, yes, he's actually trying to harm us. He's trying to swallow everything. But the Lord here is saying is that, no, he'll actually benefit you. And Prabhupada, in the purport, he says, indeed, of his own accord, he would try to benefit the demigods. And you'll see this benefit when he's actually instructing, giving instructions to Indra. Indra had become despondent in battle because it appeared that Vritrasura had defeated him, but he's going to actually instruct him. And those instructions are very pertinent for us, as yes, we'll find out later on. But I don't want to, be the spoiler to actually ruin the the cliffhanger of the entire narrative. Um, so this non-envious attitude, it's very important. Krishna, he speaks about it we first of all are introduced to it in the Bhagavad Gita, where he tells Arjuna that your qualification, the reason why I'm imparting this transcendental knowledge to you is because you are anusuyave, you are non-envious. Now, where does this envy arise from? So in our descent from the spiritual world to the material world, the description is that the cause of our fall down is that we basically, it's not that we were dissatisfied with Krishna, but we wanted what Krishna had and something else. It's very subtle, but it's there. Then when you actually come to the material world and get a material body, you have to then get covered over further by that. And this covering is called Tamisra. So this Tamisra, Prabhupada describes it in the third canto as an anger towards the Lord. Now we know anger is the younger sister, younger brother of lust. So it appears after lust. So Krishna, he says, contemplation of the sense objects leads to attachment. From that attachment, lust develops. From lust, anger arises. And in this state, one is bewildered. Their memory is bewildered. So you can see in the progression of emotion, the expression of attachment is lust, then it's anger. So this tamisra is an anger towards the Lord. So why is this anger? Well, ultimately it's to enjoy separately from the Lord. So we want Krishna and something else. So we want chapati and also pizza. We're not just satisfied with dal rice and chapati. So that's the analogy. So this tamisra is that it's the attitude of why only Krishna? Why only Krishna can enjoy? Why can't I also enjoy? So it's this anger towards the Purushottam. You also want to enjoy as Krishna is enjoying. Um, and so really this is where this envy comes from. And so then this envy is then manifest. The second covering that Lord Brahma creates is this under Tamisra. So the under Tamisra is that death is the end of everything. So for a devotee who's non-envious, he knows that for a devotee, as Prabhupada states, There's no difference between living and dying because in his life he engages in devotional service. And after giving up his body, he engages in the same service in the spiritual world. So Vitrasura did not have anger towards the Supreme Lord. He didn't have anger towards Lord Shiva, nor did he have anger towards Mother Parvati, who actually cursed him. So this was Chitraketu's attitude. So no anger. He just accepted it. The curse, yes, even though he could have counteracted it, but he just accepted it. There was no anger. So that's evidence that he had completely, in his Jivan Mukta status, he had completely dissipated Kamisra. And then, because he didn't have any anger, there was also no Anvata Misra. He knew that, uh, yes, I will get the birth of a demon, but it's not the end. It's not the end of my devotional service to Lord Sankarshan. I'll still actually be able to serve him. So he trusted in the Lord's plan. So even though he wasn't explicitly told what will be the end of the curse before he was considering whether to accept it or not, no, he actually just immediately accepted it. So he wasn't covered over by this under Tamisra. So for one who sees death as the end, becomes very fearful. For one who is attached to uh, wealth and strength, as the demigods are, um, they are prone to actually becoming fearful. So for mixed devotees, this is why it's not recommended for us to stay on the mixed platform, is that our devotional service actually gets disturbed by these trace amounts of under Tamisra. So even though we are being instructed, um, continuously that the spiritual world is a wonderful place. You'll get to serve the Lord in opulence if you want to, Sharshti. You get to serve the Lord on the same planet, Salokya. You get to serve the Lord perhaps in the same body as him. So if you get Swarupa, Siddhi, you get to serve the Lord. Um, yes, with all these perfections, still we attach to the body. So why is that? The third layer, tamas, that I am this body. So being forgetful about your spiritual body. So with Ritrasura, he wasn't forgetful. He knew that if I get the body of a demon, um, I'll still actually have my knowledge. He knew that I'll still be able to remember who am I. I am Krishnara Swarupoi. Vivara Swarupoi Krishnara Nityadas. I am an eternal servant of Lord Krishna. Similarly, even Dadyancha, he knew as well. And therefore, giving up his body because he had a non-envious attitude, he actually wanted to benefit the devotees, then giving up his body is the best use. Giving it up in the Lord's service is actually the best use of his body. So so the Lord dissipates these, and obviously if you're not attached, if you're not covered over by this tamas or this ignorance of misidentification with the body, then you don't get victimized by moha, which is then you create a network of bodies around you, and then maha moha, then you actually become further entangled through activity, through acting for the interests of these bodily relations, you become further implicated. So for the devotees, even for the demigods, Narayan is actually instructing them that you are fearful because you are identifying with this body. Now see, Tadyancha, my great devotee, who's actually going to give up his body for your benefit. Something you wouldn't do because you are self-interested in comfort for your own body. But just see that Yancha is about to give up his body for your benefit. And on top of that, the very cause of your fear your enemy, is also going to benefit you because he too is also non-envious. He's not identifying with the body. He doesn't see death as the end, and he doesn't have anger towards him, towards Narayan. Yes, or an envious attitude towards Narayan. So Lord Vishnu is instructing all around, both with the cause of fear and also with the cause of peacefulness, which is destruction of this, the cause of fear, which is the destruction of Vitrasura. So it's a full, it's a complete, the whole pastime, the Lord is instructing from beginning to end, the middle, up, down, all around. He's instructing this and he's dissipating. He's trying to dissipate these Tamisra, under Tamisra, and Tamisra. And in this way, by dissipating these three core layers of ignorance, then the demigods won't be implicated in Moha and Mahamoha, just as Dadyancha and also Vritrasura wasn't implicated. So Chitraketu, he had 10 million wives. In terms of implication in Mahamoha, I don't know if there's anyone who's ever been implicated to that extent. 10 million. But he was a liberated soul. Yeah, he was completely glorious, liberated soul. So he wasn't implicated in his glory and in his demonstration of how he was actually a completely liberated soul. It's demonstrated by how he accepted this demonic body of Ritrasura. So why is the Lord trying to instruct us in this very complex way, or very thorough way? Let me put it. It's very thorough that the Lord has set up this whole situation. Well, the whole foundation of the material world is very complex, and the complexity is that the pure spirit soul wants to enjoy matter. So the Lord, as he explains in the third canto, as Kapila Dev, that the the pure spirit soul gets covered over by this false ego. So that's what actually achieves this quote unquote miraculous situation, is that the pure spirit soul forgets Krishna. My Guru Maharaj was speaking on this and saying that Krishna is so beautiful that in order for you to forget him, you need his help. That's how beautiful he is. So he's so beautiful that you can't forget him. It's actually not possible to forget Krishna. But if you are to forget him, if that's really what you want, in other words, this Tamisra, you have a certain anger towards him. You want to actually enjoy like how he enjoys. Because it's so difficult to forget him, you need his help. And therefore he helps you. And when he helps you, it's thorough. Like there's no question of wanting to become liberated without the Lord's help. And so, yeah, you just get encased, as Kapila Deva explains it, through all these 24 elements around the spirit soul. You get so encased in matter that, practically speaking, you can't escape without his help. So, yeah, so the cause of bondage, the Lord has to help you. So the cause of bondage is one's desire. But then the means for bondage is perpetual because the Lord is helping you. Because the Lord, when he does something, it's completely thorough. And, and then the Lord now has to come. He has another difficult task of now, okay, I need to liberate these poor spirit souls who have descended from the spiritual world and are rotting. They've forgotten their real self-interest, and the real self-interest is to be absorbed in Krishna's beauty. That's where the real self-interest is. They've forgotten it because of this anger. And so as a result, the Lord has to create this very elaborate pastime with the demigods, Vritrasura, uh, and he's specifically instructing them how to, yes, how to actually become absorbed in his beauty. So the beauty here that's going to shine through this pastime is the beauty of the devotee's attitude towards the Supreme Lord. The Anusuyave quality. Very, very beautiful. Even Vritrasura, even the demigods are going to be astounded. Just how when Indra is actually fighting Vritrasura, and Vritrasura is instructing Indra, they're going to be completely mesmerized by Vritrasura's instructions. That just see, he could have killed them in so many instances, but he's telling Indra, pick up your weapon, fight. I am a demon. I'm not becoming despondent that I'm in the body of a demon. You've lopped off my arms. I'm practically defeated by you. And yet I'm still fighting. So pick up your weapon and just continue to fight. So this is going to be very astonishing to the demigods that he's benefiting Indra. We are seeing this battle. We are also being benefited. That yes, the Lord told us that this Vajrasura is going to benefit us, but he is benefiting us through transcendental knowledge. So ultimately, what slays this Tamisra at its root is this transcendental knowledge. So the Lord is always instructing transcendental knowledge. So this concept, or at least the quality of Anusuyave, it hits on a very fundamental part of philosophy, which is ethics. So this is very nicely described um, by His Holiness Hridayananda Maharaj, and he writes in his book Quest for Justice, Select Tales from the Mahabharata. Bhishma's reaction is interesting, since by analyzing the actions of various characters in the Mahabharata, Bhishma's and later Krishna's and others, we can easily discern different moral philosophies. Western philosophers, for example, would identify Bhishma's current moral outlook as act-based or deontological ethics, the idea that the act itself is moral or immoral, and that any possible or even probable consequences must be disregarded. This is a good description of Bhishma's stance. Quote, the consequences don't matter. I gave my word and I'll keep it. That's my morality. And if that causes the ruin of the Kuru dynasty, the destruction of Dharma, the Asura's takeover of the earth, so be it. It is the act of keeping my vow that matters most. So this is a commentary on Bhishma's reaction to Mother Satyavati's request to actually bear his son in the widows of Vichitravirya, his stepbrother. So Vichitravirya had died from tuberculosis. There was no heir to the Kurus. And the Kurus, basically, they were maintaining law and order. And the whole dynasty was Maharaj Shantanu was so powerful that the Asuras who had been defeated from the Milk Ocean, they were actually trying to take birth on Earth to use it as a place for regrouping so that they can launch another attack uh, to to the heavenly planets and basically defeat the demigods in that way. So Bhishma Dev knew this because he was a son of Mother Ganga, and in his youth he was trained in military warfare in the celestial planets. And so, in terms of what the Kuru dynasty, their function is, what they've been doing for centuries, is basically protecting the earth from this kind of insurgency from the demons. So when there's no heir on the Kuru throne, it means that this insurgency can actually manifest. Um, the demons can actually take over the earth. Yeah. And so basically, he made a vow to actually allow, he made a vow that he won't marry so that he doesn't have any children, because this was the condition that his uh, yeah, Mother Satyavati's father made for the marriage to take place between Maharaj Shantanu, his father, and his stepmother, uh, Satyavati. So, so even though, so this is why Maharaj is saying that that's my morality. If that causes the ruin of the Kuru dynasty, the destruction of Dharma, the Asuras take over the earth, so be it. So this idea is called deontological ethics, that the right thing to do is in the act in itself. So if we look at um, Gadyancha's sacrificing his body, then one could argue that because the super soul is in there, actually giving up the body is not good. Uh, that he's a devotee, he's performing these vows and austerities, and he's serving the Lord. So why should he give up the body? So from if he, his vow was that, yes, I'm just gonna stick to these austerities, I took the vow that I won't break the austerities, then there's no question of giving up the body. But here's the opposite. Fortunately, Maharaj continues, as we will see late in the Mahabharata, Krishna's moral teaching is far removed from Bhishma's act-based perspective. In fact, it is Krishna's strong view that an act's consequences are very much a part of the act. In other words, when you do something, you know there will be certain consequences. The moral quality of your decision or conduct is based not on the act alone, but rather on the act and its consequences. So this is a very important point, is that when Krishna is actually instructing, giving instructions, it can seem like very contradictory. That, oh, he's telling Tadyancha to give up his body. Um, and that's going to lead, you know, the super soul is in there. But there's a higher purpose. The consequences is that Tadyancha's body is going to actually kill this demon, Vritrasura, and restore the balance of power within the universe. Right? Um, Krishna in the Mahabharata, he tells a story of a sage. So actually, much later in the Mahabharata, Krishna will tell grandfather Bhishma the story of a sage who was proud of always telling the truth. Anyone asking him a question would always receive an entirely honest answer. One time, a group of innocent people ran in terror through his ashram and hid in the forest, being pursued from town by murderous thieves. Knowing of the sage's reputation for honesty, the thieves went to him and asked if he knew where those innocents were hiding. Yes, he replied. Well, where are they? They are right over there, behind those trees. Thanks to the blind honesty of the sage, the criminals easily found, robbed, and killed their victims. Krishna reveals the sage's fate. Because he told the truth, he went to hell. Why? He knowingly caused the death of innocent people. That was a consequence of his so-called act of truth. So the Lord's instructions appear to be equivocal. They appear to have contradictions. Um, even Arjuna actually reacts to Krishna's instructions in this way in the Bhagavad Gita. But if you understand the very basis of the material world is that the spirit soul is trying to has misidentified with matter. That's really the cause of the contradiction. And so the Lord, in instructing what is the best thing to do, it appears to be contradictory. But actually, if you follow what the Lord's instructions, if you follow um, how he's actually imparting spiritual knowledge um, through his pastimes, through his representatives, and even uh, himself directly when he tells, uh, when he's giving instructions to his devotees. That is actually Dharma, not just this deontological perspective that the act of maintaining vows or the act of I gave my word or the act of just being true, truthful, absolutely in all circumstances. That's what's to be done. No, you need to consider the consequences. So even when the Lord is giving transcendental knowledge, even in this specific pastime, the consequences of Dadyancha's giving up his body has a higher purpose. The consequence of Chitraketu accepting the body of a demon has a higher purpose. So we are all called for a higher purpose in devotional service. And so today we can pray for that higher purpose. So we have the inspiration of our dear Prabhupada, how he recounts that he had an argument with Krishna personally, that he wanted to actually spread Krishna consciousness as a rich man, because a rich man can then people will listen to him. He has the influence, and with that influence, he can uh, spread the Sankirtan movement. He can build temples. He can print lots of books. There won't be hindrance. But Prabhupada says Krishna won. Krishna won the argument, and so he came with hardly anything. I mean, 43 rupees is nothing. Bhargava Prabhu was telling us that when Prabhupada actually made some money on board the Jaladuta when he, I think, if I remember correctly, distributed a set of books and he got $20. But he actually came with nothing when he boarded the Jaladuta. And so uh, when Prabhupada is is praying when he came to America in Boston, and he wrote the Markina Bhagavad Dharma to Krishna, make me dance. This is the attitude of a devotee. That my Lord, I can't see what you're calling me to do, the consequences, but I know that it's for to benefit practically a lot of devotees, a lot of living entities. So make me dance. So even though you can't do this immediately, to basically act, you can't give up your body like this, as these great devotees have done. Vadyancha, Prabhupada, giving up the entire body for the service of the Sankirtan movement, you can be inspired. So here at Gita Nagari, we are called for precisely that, and we're trying to execute the order of our spiritual master by at least, yeah, we're trying to advance Prabhupada's mission through the will of our spiritual master. So we can pray, uh, yes, for this strength to be called for this higher purpose. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions, reflections, or contentions? The few minutes we have. What do you think? Okay. Okay, the question is, after anger, there's bewilderment of memory. Um, so, I mean, you've been angry before, right? Do you remember who this person that is causing you to anger is? You can say like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So if we remember the affection that this person has for us, then there's no, basically you can just like either time out or not say anything, just like calm down. But typically the nature of anger is that you forget who this person is in relation to. It's a very common experience. So even your well wisher, your father, your mother, whomever, you can just say really nasty things at them. Yeah, that's a different type of anger. Um, that's like lamentation. It's a type of lamentation. And yeah, that can be beneficial. But this specific anger, it's anger towards, yeah, I couldn't actually control this situation. So I'm like, yeah, I'm angry because I just didn't get what I want. I'm attached to this, but now I'm not getting what I want. Yeah, you can. And yeah, that can be there. But for the spiritualist, yeah, that's beneficial. That can be beneficial. But the anger that Krishna was talking about is the material type, not the one that is inspired by the spiritual goal, but it's due to material attachment as opposed to spiritual attachment. So the anger towards not being able to control your senses is due to a spiritual attachment. Yeah, which is different. So it has different. So instead of being bewildered in your memory, you're like, "I'm angry, couldn't control my senses. Okay, I'm going to Mangal Arati." So that response is you remembering where your self interest lies. But then the material anger, there's no question of going to Mangal Arati. You either, have a nightcap, drink it down, or you do some other activity just to like drown away your sorrow. Yeah, yeah. Each of us has our own type of escape, but yeah. So when you do that, obviously, it's due to material attachment. Does that answer your question? Okay. Nitai Chan Prabhu, do you have a yes, Prabhu? Okay, 2 minutes you have. Yeah. Maybe we can discuss it after. Yeah. Uh, mm, 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 mm,
counter logical and counterintuitive. Anyway, I admitted that this was a contention, right? So I'm continuing. And, uh, and I don't think that anybody has to agree with me. It's just is what it is. But I think it's important that people aren't demoralized from the get go. It's the class of people who can say, well, you know, yeah, I was fallen, but now I'm fixing it, so I'm better. And but that's a narrow range of people, and they like the fact that they're better than others fixing it. But there's a vast number of people who just don't want to accept it, that I was in the spiritual world and I was the biggest moron the whole time and left. It's just demoralizing. Hinder that. So, uh, so my contention is that we should understand. The fact is, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, those who come to this material world and get out are guaranteed that they do not have to come. That's really all that's needed to explain why we came to the material world. Because Krishna's offering a guarantee that you can only get if you come. So you just want more Krishna. It's Krishna's guarantee. I mean, you sort of hinted at that by saying, oh, we want something, but this whole idea that we want, like, we want to be God, that's why we left the spiritual world is nonsense. How is Krishna all attractive if you're there with Krishna? If you're like, man, thanks, Krishna. I think I want to be Krishna. That's not all attractive. But this is logical on its face. So my contention is what we want is more Krishna. And Krishna has a guarantee that if we come to this material world and we get out, we don't ever have to go back. But you can't get that guarantee unless you come here. It's just a lot less demoralizing to people that you're the biggest thing ever for leaving the spiritual world, and now you have to figure out, what the problem is. It's even to figure out their problem. I mean, I suppose the idea is, well, Christian, you can figure it out. Well, who's going to lose massive numbers? So I'm sure that was more than 2 minutes, but that's not my intention. The intentional demoralizing the people.
Thank you, Prabhu, for your perspective. Yeah. It's a big topic, so there's no time to actually deal with it. Why we fell from the spiritual world. Targa Prabhu.
Yeah, just a quick minor uh, correction. From anger, there is first complete delusion, then bewilderment of memory. And delusion is defined as a belief in something that is not true. And then there is bewilderment of memory. Minor correction. Thank you for a wonderfully engaging class. Lots of excellent points made. I always appreciate your classes. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu, for that correction. Really appreciate your input as well. Okay, let's conclude here. Thank you so much, dear devotees. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Pramanandi Haribol.
And I like your hat.
Thanks, Prabhu.